The stars looked different from the bridge of the Defiance. Commander Susan Miller had seen them countless times during her 15 years of service, but today they seemed more distant, colder. Maybe it was because she knew aliens were coming. "They're entering our solar system now, Commander," said Lieutenant John Baker, his eyes fixed on the glowing display. 5 ships, big ones. Susan nodded, trying to keep her face calm. Inside, her heart raced. Humanity had wondered about aliens for centuries. Now they were here. "All stations report ready," she said. "Remember, we represent all of Earth today." The alien ships moved with perfect precision. They were smooth and white, shaped like arrowheads, and they made Earth's best ships look like toys. The largest one, nearly a mile long, positioned itself directly in front of the Defiance. "They're hailing us," said the communications officer. Susan straightened her uniform. On screen. The alien that appeared looked almost like a tall human, with blue-tinted skin and no hair. He wore an ornate uniform covered in what looked like medals. "I am Admiral Zorvak of the Galactic Imperial Fleet," he said in perfect English. "I bring greetings from Emperor Zelnor, ruler of 10,000 worlds. I am Commander Susan Miller of Earth's Defense Force. We welcome you to our solar system." The alien smiled, but there was something cold in his eyes. "How pleasing to find your species so adequate. The Empire has been watching your development for some time." Susan felt a chill. "You've been watching us?" "Of course, we monitor all developing worlds. Your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel has qualified Earth for formal contact and invitation into the Empire." Dr. Alan Wright, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward beside Susan. "We're honored, Admiral. We have much to learn about galactic society." "Indeed." Zorvak's smile widened. "You will find your proper place within our hierarchy. The terms of submission are standard. Earth will become a protectorate, surrender independent military operations, and receive Imperial technology and protection in return." The bridge went silent. Susan felt her mouth go dry. "Terms of submission?" Zorvak looked confused. "Yes, all new species submit to Imperial authority. It is how stability is maintained." Susan exchanged glances with her officers. This wasn't the first contact they had hoped for. "Admiral," she said carefully, "on Earth, relations between nations are based on mutual respect and equal standing. We would prefer to discuss a treaty between equals." Zorvak's expression changed from confusion to amusement. "Between equals? My dear Commander, your species has only just learned to leave your planet. The Empire has existed for 50,000 years. Age doesn't determine worth," Susan said firmly. "We decline to surrender our sovereignty." The amusement vanished from Zorvak's face. "This is not a negotiation. These are the terms all species accept." "Not this species," Susan replied. The alien's blue face darkened. "Your defiance is unprecedented. Perhaps you fail to understand your situation. Allow me to demonstrate." The screen went dark. "They're moving," Baker reported, his voice tense. 4 ships are holding position. The smallest one is heading toward the outer moon. They watched in silence as the Imperial ship approached the uninhabited moon. There was a flash of light from the alien vessel, and then the moon shattered. What had been a solid body millions of years old broke apart into dust and rocks in seconds. The screen lit up again with Zorvak's face. "That weapon was operating at 5% capacity. Now, do you understand your situation, Commander?" Susan felt sick, but she kept her voice steady. "We understand that you threaten those who don't immediately obey you. That tells us everything we need to know about your empire." Zorvak's face showed genuine surprise. "You still refuse? This is irregular. I will give you 24 of your hours to reconsider. The alternative will be unpleasant." The screen went dark again. "They're returning to their previous position," Baker reported. Susan turned to her senior staff. "We need to contact Earth immediately." Within an hour, she was speaking with the highest military and civilian leaders of Earth via secure channel. "They destroyed a moon as a warning," she explained. They expect us to surrender our independence without a fight. General Kevin Daniels, the stern-faced head of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, shook his head. Not going to happen. Humanity doesn't bow to bullies, not even alien ones. Their technology is far beyond ours, Susan reminded them. Then we'll have to be smarter, said Dr. Linda Harris, Earth's top physicist. Commander, can you transmit the sensor readings from when they destroyed the moon? I have some ideas. President Laura Bennett, her face grave on the screen, asked the question everyone was thinking. Can we win this fight? Susan didn't lie. I don't know, but I know we can't live as slaves. Over the next 24 hours, Earth prepared for war. Civilians were moved to shelters. Every ship and weapon was made ready. Scientists worked non-stop studying the sensor data from the moon's destruction. Dr. Harris made a breakthrough just hours before the deadline. Their weapons create a specific energy pattern, she explained to Susan. If we can tune our shields to that frequency, we might be able to defend against them. Might? Susan asked. It's the best we've got, Harris admitted. When Admiral Zorvak appeared on screen again, his confidence was obvious. Has Earth reached the sensible decision, Commander? Susan faced him calmly. We have. Earth refuses to surrender. We propose peace between equals or nothing at all. For a moment, Zorvak seemed speechless. Then he laughed. In 50,000 years, no species has been so foolish. Your primitive defiance would be admirable if it weren't so futile. Maybe you've never met humans before, Susan replied. No, Zorvak agreed, his voice turning cold. But I will oversee your extinction unless you submit now. We will not bow. Zorvak shook his head. Then you will break. The transmission ended. They're moving into attack formation, Baker reported, his hands steady despite the danger. All 5 ships. Susan opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is Commander Miller. Humanity faces its greatest challenge today. We fight not just for ourselves, but for our right to determine our own future among the stars. Stand firm. Execute Defense Plan Alpha. The Defiance shuddered as its engines pushed it forward. Susan watched as Earth's fleet moved to meet the Imperial ships. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they moved with purpose and courage. As the first Imperial weapons fire lit up the darkness of space, Susan thought about all of human history, the struggles, the triumphs, the endless drive to overcome every obstacle. If the Empire thought humans would surrender easily, they were about to learn their first lesson about Earth and their biggest mistake. Emperor Zelnor rarely concerned himself with minor acquisitions. For over 3 centuries, he had ruled the Galactic Empire from the central palace on the capital world of Imperius Prime. New species joined the Empire regularly, each taking their proper place in the hierarchy. It was routine, but today was different. Today, a high-priority message had interrupted his morning meditation. An Imperial warship destroyed? Zelnor's voice was quiet, but the 3 counselors kneeling before him trembled nonetheless. By primitives, High Counselor Drevmore spoke carefully. It appears, Great Emperor, that these humans have some unexpected capabilities. And Admiral Zorvak retreated? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He withdrew to regroup, another counselor said quickly. A tactical decision to prevent further losses. Emperor Zelnor stood. He was tall even by Imperial standards, with blue skin that had darkened with age and white hair that hung to his waist. In 50,000 years, no primitive species has destroyed an Imperial warship. This cannot stand. Of course not, Emperor, Drevmore agreed. We have already selected Governor Krelzan to lead the response. Krelzan. The Emperor considered. This. Yes, his methods are effective if somewhat severe. He requests a fleet of 200 warships, Drevmore said. This will be a proper invasion force. The Emperor nodded. Granted, these humans must learn the cost of defiance. On Earth, the mood was tense but hopeful. The victory against the Imperial cruiser had bought them time, but everyone knew the Empire would return stronger. Colonel Sam Jackson stood before a room of pilots and ship captains. A tough veteran with dark skin and graying hair, he had been chosen to lead Earth's first offensive force. The Imperial ships are bigger and more powerful than ours, he told them. So we won't fight them the way they expect. We'll use hit and run tactics. Strike quickly, then disappear before they can respond. Captain Mary Foster raised her hand. She was young for her rank, with short brown hair and intense eyes. Sir, my ship, the Shadow, has been equipped with the new stealth systems. We can get close without being detected. Good, Jackson nodded. Your ship will be crucial for our strategy. The Imperials expect us to be awed by their technology and numbers. Their entire approach depends on it. We'll use their arrogance against them. Dr. Elizabeth Green, a military psychologist who had been studying Imperial communications, stepped forward. From their messages, we can see they think in rigid patterns. They expect other species to behave in predictable ways. When we don't, it confuses them. And confusion on the battlefield leads to mistakes, Jackson added. The meeting continued, as they refined their plans. Instead of a conventional defense, Earth would send small, agile ships to harass the Imperial fleet, targeting supply ships and communication relays rather than warships. Over the next few weeks, human factories worked around the clock to build more ships and upgrade existing ones with Dr. Harris's shield modifications. The Shadow and 5 other ships were equipped with experimental stealth technology. Dr. Green continued analyzing Imperial communications. They refer to us as the Human Rebellion, she reported. They can't seem to understand that we're not rebelling. We never accepted their authority in the first place. Then the sensors detected what everyone had been dreading: a massive Imperial fleet entering the solar system. 200 warships, far more than Earth could hope to match in direct combat. Governor Krelzan wasted no time. His first message to Earth was blunt: submit or be destroyed. There will be no further warnings. Earth's response came from General Daniels: we will not surrender our freedom. Come in peace or don't come at all. Krelzan's face showed no emotion as he ended the transmission. Known throughout the Empire for his efficiency in putting down rebellions, he had a simple philosophy: overwhelming force applied quickly breaks all resistance. Begin the attack, he ordered. Target their orbital defenses first, then their largest cities. When they see their world burning, they will surrender. The Imperial fleet moved into position around Earth, their weapons powered up, ready to rain destruction on the planet below. But the humans had been preparing. Colonel Jackson's strike force ships, hidden until now, suddenly attacked from multiple directions. They didn't target the massive Imperial warships directly. Instead, they hit communication satellites, weapons control systems, and supply ships. The Shadow, with Captain Foster at the helm, slipped undetected through the Imperial fleet. Using reverse-engineered Imperial technology, it was nearly invisible to their sensors. The ship approached one of the command vessels coordinating the Imperial formation. Target locked, Foster's weapons officer reported. Their shields are at full strength. Fire the pulse, Foster ordered. The Shadow released. A burst of energy matched precisely to the frequency of Imperial shields. As with the righteous weeks earlier, the command vessel's shields collapsed. Before they could recover, the Shadow launched its missiles, targeting the ship's engines and weapon systems. Then it disappeared back into stealth mode. Throughout the Imperial fleet, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared suddenly, disabled specific targets, and vanished before the Imperials could respond effectively. It wasn't a conventional battle. It was chaos. Governor Krelzan watched in growing frustration as his carefully planned attack fell apart. "Find those ships," he shouted at his officers. "How can primitives be doing this?" "They're using tactics we haven't encountered before," one officer admitted. "Their ships are small and fast, and some seem able to avoid our sensors." Krelzan's face darkened. "Enough of this. Begin the orbital bombardment now. Target their largest cities. When they see the destruction, they will break." The order went out. Several Imperial warships moved into position over Earth's most populated areas. They charged their planet-killer weapons, massive energy cannons capable of leveling cities. But human intelligence had anticipated this move. Lieutenant Carol Lewis, an intelligence officer who had been analyzing Imperial battle tactics, had predicted exactly this response. When frustrated, they'll resort to overwhelming force, she had told Colonel Jackson weeks earlier. They'll try to break our will by targeting civilians. Based on her analysis, Earth had prepared a surprise. As the Imperial ships moved into bombardment position, automated defense platforms, previously hidden on asteroids and small moons, activated simultaneously. These platforms, built in secret using Dr. Harris's designs, fired modified versions of the shield-disrupting pulse. 20 Imperial warships suddenly found their shields failing. Earth's remaining conventional fleet, held in reserve until this moment, launched a coordinated attack on the vulnerable ships. Governor Krell Zan watched, in disbelief as the screens showed Imperial warships, the pride of the Empire, exploding or breaking apart. In centuries of Imperial conquest, nothing like this had happened. "Withdraw to safe distance," he ordered, his voice shaking with rage. "Regroup the fleet." As the Imperial ships pulled back, cheers erupted in command centers across Earth. They had stopped an orbital bombardment that could have killed millions, but the victory came at a cost. Half of Colonel Jackson's strike force had been destroyed. The automated defense platforms had revealed their positions and were being systematically targeted by Imperial ships. And the Empire still had more than 150 warships in the solar system. Inno, his command ship, Governor Krell Zan, composed a message to the Imperial Council. He didn't mention retreat or defeat. Instead, he reported that the humans were employing unconventional tactics requiring strategic adaptation. He requested reinforcements and special weapons normally reserved for suppressing major rebellions. On the Earth, leaders gathered to assess the situation. The defense had worked better than anyone dared hope, but everyone knew the war was far from over. "We've surprised them twice now," General Daniels said. "They won't underestimate us again. Their next attack will be worse," Commander Miller agreed. "Governor Krell Zan has a reputation for brutality. He won't accept this defeat." President Bennett looked around the table at the tired faces of Earth's military and scientific leaders. "Options?" Dr. Harris spoke up. "We're learning more about their technology with each encounter. Give us more time and we might develop better defenses, maybe even comparable weapons." Colonel Jackson, joining by video from his ship, added, "My strike force can continue harassment tactics to slow them down." President Bennett nodded. "Do it. Every day we hold them off is a day we grow stronger." What no one on Earth knew was that news of their resistance was spreading throughout the Empire. On worlds long since conquered, species that had accepted Imperial rule for generations were hearing whispers. A primitive species called humans was fighting the Empire and winning. Governor Krell Zan, waiting for a response from the Imperial Council, didn't understand that he faced more than a military challenge. The humans were threatening something even more fundamental, the myth of Imperial invincibility. The Empire had made its second mistake. They thought this was just another conquest. They didn't realize they were fighting for their very identity. The Imperial Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zorvak finished his report. 12 alien leaders sat around a massive table made of a material that seemed to glow from within. They looked at each other in disbelief. "You mean to tell us," said one with green skin and 4 eyes, "that these humans refused Imperial protection?" "Yes, Counselor," Zorvak replied, his blue face tight with anger. "They declined our standard terms." High Counselor Drevmore, the oldest member with skin that had faded to pale blue, leaned forward. "In 50,000 years, no species has ever refused. Are you certain you explained the benefits clearly?" "I demonstrated our power by destroying one of their moons," Zorvak said. "Instead of showing proper fear, they became defiant." The counselors murmured among themselves. This was unprecedented. "What is their military capability?" asked another counselor. "Primitive," Zorvak scoffed. "Fewer than 100 warships, none approaching even our scouts in firepower. They have just recently achieved faster-than-light travel." "Then why not simply take their world?" asked a counselor with metal implants covering half her face. "The Emperor expects results." Drevmore raised a hand for silence. "We should study these humans more carefully before proceeding." Any species that reacts so differently may have other surprises. With respect, High Counselor, Zorvak said, there is no need for caution. I request permission to lead a proper fleet to show these humans the consequence of defiance. After brief discussion, the Council approved his request. Zorvak would take 20 warships, 10 times his original force, to subdue Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, leaders from every nation gathered in an underground facility. The room was filled with tension as General Kevin Daniels presented the situation. The aliens call themselves the Galactic Empire, he explained, pointing to images of their ships. They expect us to surrender our independence without a fight. President Laura Bennett looked around the table. Options? Dr. Linda Harris stepped forward. Her lab coat was wrinkled from days without sleep. We've analyzed their weapon signatures. They use an energy pattern we've never seen before, but we think we can adapt our shields to withstand it, at least partly. How long will that take? Bennett asked. We've already started modifying the Defiance as a test case, Harris replied, but we need more time for the rest of the fleet. Ambassador Paul Wilson spoke up. I could lead a diplomatic mission, try to stall them. They don't seem interested in real diplomacy, Commander Susan Miller said through a video link from the Defiance. They see us as primitives to be conquered, not equals to negotiate with, General Daniels nodded. We need to prepare for war while hoping for peace. Every nation must contribute all available resources. For the first time in human history, the entire planet united against an external threat. Old enemies set aside their differences. Scientists shared their most guarded secrets. Factories worked around the clock to build weapons and shields based on Dr. Harris's designs. Ambassador Wilson sent message after message to the Imperial fleet, requesting talks. Sometimes they answered, sometimes they didn't. But Earth gained precious days to prepare. Then the Imperial fleet returned, 20 massive warships that took up position around Earth. Final chance for submission, Admiral Zorvak's message stated. Surrender now or face the consequences. Earth's answer came from General Daniels. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We propose peace between equals or nothing at all. The Imperial attack began immediately. Their ships targeted Earth's orbital defenses with precise energy blasts. Space stations exploded. Defense satellites melted. Earth's fleet scrambled to respond. From the Defiance, Commander Miller watched with a tight knot in her stomach as 3 human ships were destroyed in the first minutes. Shields holding at 60%, Lieutenant Baker reported as their ship shook from a near miss. Position us behind the moon, Miller ordered. We need to wait for the right moment. On his flagship, Admiral Zorvak smiled as he watched the battle. This was proceeding exactly as expected. The human ships were scattered, their defenses failing. Not a single Imperial vessel had been damaged. Sir, one of his officers reported, one of their larger ships appears to be hiding behind their moon. Irrelevant. Zorvak dismissed. Continue the attack pattern. I want their orbital defenses completely eliminated before we move to planetary targets. Behind Earth's moon, the crew of the Defiance worked frantically. Dr. Harris, who had joined the ship for the battle, made final adjustments to their modified shields. The modifications are holding, she reported. But we don't know how they'll do under direct fire. We're about to find out, Miller said grimly. Is the new weapon ready? Harris nodded. Theoretically, it should work. It's designed to use their own shield frequency against them. Theoretically isn't very comforting, Miller said. It's the best we've got, Harris replied. Miller opened a channel to all crew stations. This is the commander. What we do next may determine the future of our species. If we show these Imperials that humans can hurt them, maybe they'll reconsider this war. If not, she paused. It's been an honor serving with all of you. She turned to her pilot. Take us in. Full speed. Target the nearest Imperial cruiser. The Defiance shot out from behind the moon, engines burning bright. The sudden movement caught the Imperial fleet by surprise. What are they doing? Zorvak demanded as alarm sounded on his bridge. The human ship is on a collision course with the Righteous, his officer reported, referring to one of the Imperial cruisers. Destroy them, Zorvac ordered. 3 Imperial ships fired on the Defiance. Their energy weapons hit directly, and the human ship kept coming. Shields holding at 40%, Baker reported, his voice tight as the ship shook violently. Keep going, Miller ordered. Get us within range. The Defiance closed with the Imperial cruiser Righteous. At the last moment it changed course, coming alongside the much larger vessel. Now, Miller commanded. Dr. Harris activated their new weapon. It sent out a pulse specifically tuned to the frequency of Imperial shields. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Righteous's shields flickered and collapsed. All weapons fire, Miller ordered. The Defiance unleashed everything it had on the suddenly vulnerable Imperial ship. Missiles struck its hull. Laser batteries cut into its vital systems. Explosions blossomed across its surface. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial warship suffered critical damage in battle. Zorvac watched in disbelief as the Righteous listed to one side, venting atmosphere and debris. Impossible, he whispered. Miller didn't wait for the Imperials to recover from their shock. Get us out of here, she ordered. As the Defiance pulled away, she opened a channel to all Imperial vessels. This was a warning, she transmitted. We don't want war, but we will finish one if you start it. Return to your empire. Tell them Earth is not for conquering. The damaged Imperial cruiser began to break apart. Its crew evacuated in small craft, heading for other Imperial ships. The sight of an Imperial vessel destroyed by primitives sent shockwaves through the fleet. Zorvac faced a decision unlike any in his career. His orders were to subdue Earth, but no one had expected the humans to possess technology that could threaten Imperial ships. If he continued the attack, he might lose more vessels. If he retreated, his career was over. Order the fleet to pull back to a safe distance, he finally commanded. We will regroup and analyze their weapon. As the Imperial ships withdrew, cheers erupted throughout Earth's remaining fleet and in command centers around the planet. They had scored their first victory against the supposedly invincible Empire, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would return with more ships and new tactics. Earth had won a battle, not the war. In his private quarters, Zorvac drafted a message to the Imperial Council. How could he explain that primitives had destroyed an Imperial warship? It was unprecedented, humiliating. On distant Imperial worlds, news of the defeat would soon spread. Species that had accepted their place in the hierarchy for centuries would hear that humans had defied the Empire and survived. The Empire had made its first mistake with humans. It wouldn't be the last. The Imperial High Council chamber had never been this tense. Emperor Zell-Nor sat on his elevated throne, his ancient face showing an emotion rarely seen: concern. 2 fleet actions, he said, his voice echoing in the vast room. 2 defeats. Explain this to me. No one spoke at first. Finally, High Counselor Drevmore stood. Unlike the other counselors who kept their eyes down, he met the Emperor's gaze directly. Great Emperor, these humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not fight as expected. They adapt quickly, using our own technology against us. Governor Krelzan reports they have somehow developed a weapon that disrupts our shield systems, added another counselor. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. How is this possible? They achieved space travel only recently. That is perhaps their most dangerous quality, Drevmore said. They learn and adapt at an extraordinary rate. What takes other species centuries, they accomplish in years or even months. Emperor Zell-Nor stood, causing all present to bow their heads. This cannot continue. No primitive race defies the Empire and survives. I am authorizing the deployment of the Sacred Fleet. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Sacred Fleet, ancient warships of tremendous power, had not been used in over 1,000 years. Is that necessary, Emperor? Drevmore asked carefully. The Sacred Fleet is our final defense. It has become necessary, Zell-Nor said firmly. I will lead this fleet personally. These humans will learn the full might of the Empire. On Earth, Grand Marshal Vera Rodriguez stood before the combined military leadership of humanity. At 55, with silver streaks in her black hair, She had been appointed Supreme Commander of Earth's forces following the successful defense against Governor Krelzan's fleet. The Empire has withdrawn to the edge of our solar system, she reported. But our intelligence suggests they're waiting for reinforcements. Lieutenant Carol Lewis, who had predicted the Imperial bombardment strategy, spoke up. Based on intercepted communications, they're bringing in something called the Sacred Fleet. It appears to be their most powerful warships, normally held in reserve. How many ships? Asked President Bennett. Unknown, Lewis admitted. But Governor Krelzan's messages suggest they're much more powerful than anything we've faced so far. Chief Engineer Steve Morgan stepped forward. The young engineer had been working nonstop since the war began, leading the team that integrated captured Imperial technology with human innovations. We've made significant progress understanding their systems, he said. The ships we've captured or disabled have provided valuable data. We're installing upgraded weapons and shields on our fleet, but we're still outnumbered and outgunned. Marshal Rodriguez nodded. Which is why we're changing our strategy. Instead of just defending Earth, we're taking the fight to them. This caused a stir in the room. President Bennett leaned forward. You want to attack the Empire? Not conquer it, Rodriguez clarified, but hit their outposts and supply lines. Show them that distance won't protect them from us. Make this war too costly for them to continue. After heated debate, the plan was approved. Earth had been building ships at an incredible pace, converting every available resource to the war effort. They now had nearly 300 vessels, still primitive by Imperial standards, but equipped with hybrid technology that combined Imperial power with human innovation. Colonel Jackson was promoted to Admiral and given command of the Deep Space Fleet. His mission: strike at Imperial targets beyond the solar system. Captain Foster's stealth ship, the Shadow, would scout ahead, identifying vulnerabilities. The first raids took the Empire completely by surprise. Human ships appeared at outposts and colonies not to conquer but to demonstrate reach. They disabled communications, destroyed military installations, and disappeared before Imperial reinforcements arrived. On an Imperial colony world called Vega Prime, Governor Larnzad watched in disbelief as human ships appeared in orbit. They transmitted a simple message to the colony. We have no quarrel with your people. Our fight is with the Empire that forces submission. We target only military installations. Evacuate those areas now. Then the human ships destroyed the orbital defense platforms and military base, leaving civilian areas untouched. Before Imperial warships could respond, they jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished. Similar scenes played out across a dozen Imperial systems. The humans never stayed to fight superior forces. They struck quickly and departed, leaving confusion and fear in their wake. News spread rapidly throughout the Empire. The humans were not just defending their world, they were taking the fight to Imperial territory. On planets where species had accepted Imperial rule for generations, whispers of resistance grew louder. Lieutenant Lewis, continuing her analysis of Imperial communications, made another crucial discovery. The Empire's vast size is also its weakness, she reported to Marshal Rodriguez. Their supply lines are overextended, and there are tensions between the core worlds and the outer systems. Can we exploit that? Rodriguez asked. Maybe, Lewis said. Some of the older subject species are watching our resistance very carefully. If we continue to succeed, they might see us as inspiration. While these raids continued, Admiral Jack Howard led Earth's most daring operation, an attack on an Imperial shipyard. Using intelligence gathered by Captain Foster's Shadow during weeks of covert observation, a small human fleet approached the massive facility where new Imperial warships were under construction. The Shadow had done more than observe. It had infiltrated the shipyard systems, mapping its defenses and identifying weaknesses. Most importantly, it had stolen the defensive codes. Admiral Howard's fleet appeared suddenly, transmitting the stolen codes that temporarily confused the Imperial defense systems. By the time the Imperials realized what was happening, human ships were already attacking the partially built warships in their construction docks. In 20 minutes of intense fighting, the humans destroyed over 30 Imperial vessels still under construction and damaged the shipyard itself severely. Though the human fleet took losses, they withdrew before the Empire could bring its full force to bear. For the first time, panic spread through the Imperial hierarchy. Emperor Zelnor, preparing to lead the Sacred Fleet personally, received reports of human attacks across dozens of systems. What had begun as a routine pacification of a primitive world had become the first real threat to Imperial power in living memory. "Enough," the Emperor declared. "No more measured responses. We will crush these humans once and for all." The Sacred Fleet assembled, 50 massive warships of ancient design, each captained by members of the Imperial nobility. At their center was the Imperial Judgment, the Emperor's personal vessel, a warship 5 miles long with weapons capable of cracking planets. As the Sacred Fleet prepared to depart for Earth, Emperor Zelnor addressed his captains. "For 50,000 years, the Empire has represented order in the galaxy. No species defies that order and survives. These humans have shown surprising ability, but they are still primitives. We will demonstrate what happens to those who challenge Imperial might." The captains bowed, honored to be part of this historic mission. The Sacred Fleet had never been defeated. Its appearance alone had ended rebellions in the past. On Earth, the detection of the Sacred Fleet's approach brought both fear and determination. This would clearly be their greatest challenge yet. General Diana Stone, who had designed many of Earth's successful defensive strategies, presented a desperate plan to Earth's leadership. "Our intelligence from Captain Foster's mission suggests the Sacred Fleet, for all its power, uses antiquated control systems." "Antiquated?" President Bennett asked. "Yes," Stone explained. "The Emperor insists they remain unchanged from their original design, considered perfect by Imperial tradition. We believe this may be their vulnerability." Chief Engineer Morgan expanded on the plan. "We've developed a virus specifically designed to target these old systems. If we can get close enough to deploy it into their network, we might be able to disrupt their coordination." "Getting close will be the problem," Admiral Howard pointed out. "These are their most powerful ships." "That's where I come in, Captain," Foster said. "The Shadow has been upgraded with the latest stealth systems. The diplomatic ship Unity approached the meeting point at the edge of Earth's solar system. It carried President Laura Bennett, Admiral Jack Howard, and a small team of Earth's top diplomats and scientists. They were about to attempt something unprecedented, peace talks with the Galactic Empire. "Are we sure this isn't a trap?" Admiral Howard asked, looking out at the stars. His weathered face showed the strain of months of war. "Our intelligence suggests this High Counselor Drevmore is sincere," President Bennett replied. "And Captain Foster's stealth ships are monitoring everything. If they try anything, we'll know." The Defiance, now commanded by Susan Miller since her promotion to Admiral, escorted the Unity. It was the same ship that had faced the first Imperial ultimatum, and it seemed fitting that it should be present for what might be the end of the conflict. Ahead of them, a single Imperial vessel waited. It was smaller than their massive warships, clearly designed for diplomatic rather than military purposes. Still, it dwarfed the human ships. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. On screen, Bennett ordered. High Counselor Drevmore appeared. Unlike Admiral Zorvak or Governor Krelzan, his manner was calm and thoughtful. "President Bennett, I appreciate your willingness to meet." "We have always preferred peace, Counselor," Bennett replied. "It was the Empire that chose war." Drevmore inclined his head. "Perhaps there have been misunderstandings on both sides. I suggest we meet in person to discuss terms." The meeting took place in a neutral space. A station quickly assembled between the two ships. Bennett and her team sat on one side of a long table, the Imperial representatives on the other. It was the first time humans and Imperials had met face-to-face without the immediate threat of violence. Drevmore opened the talks. "The Empire has existed for 50,000 years, he said. "In all that time, no species has resisted us as effectively as humans. Your technology is primitive compared to ours, yet you have fought us to a standstill. We value our freedom, Bennett said simply, and humans have a long history of fighting against those who would take it from us. So we have learned, Drevmore acknowledged. Emperor Zelnor has authorized me to offer terms, not of surrender, as before, but of mutual recognition. There was a murmur of surprise from the human delegation. Bennett kept her face neutral. We're listening. Earth would remain independent, Drevmore continued. You would not be required to submit to Imperial authority. In return, there would be limits on human expansion beyond your solar system and agreements about technology sharing. Bennett glanced at Admiral Howard, who nodded slightly. These were real negotiations, not another ultimatum. The talks continued, for days. Both sides had red lines that couldn't be crossed. The Empire insisted on restrictions to prevent humans from helping other species resist Imperial rule. Earth refused any limitations on their technological development. Finally, a framework emerged. Earth would remain sovereign. Limited trade would begin between humans and Imperial worlds. A buffer zone would be established where neither side would establish military bases. The humans would not interfere with existing Imperial territories, and the Empire would not attempt to conquer human colonies as they expanded. It wasn't perfect, but it was peace. When the final terms were drafted, Bennett signed for Earth and Drevmore for the Empire. A historic moment, Drevmore said. The first time in Imperial history that we have signed a treaty with a newly discovered species as equals. Let's hope it's the beginning of a new approach for the Empire, Bennett suggested. Cooperation achieves more than conquest. Drevmore's expression was unreadable. That remains to be seen, President Bennett. The Empire has survived for 50 millennia by maintaining order. Change does not come easily to such an ancient system. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Miller approached Drevmore privately. There's something I don't understand, Counselor. Why did you push for peace? The Empire still has vastly more resources than Earth. You could have sent another fleet. Drevmore considered her question carefully. Admiral Miller, I have studied thousands of species during my long life. Humans are different. You adapt faster, fight more creatively, and show more determination than any race we've encountered. We might eventually defeat you through sheer numbers, but the cost would be enormous. And the Emperor accepted this assessment? Miller asked. The Emperor is pragmatic, Drevmore replied. When the Sacred Fleet suffered damage, he realized that a quick victory was impossible, and a long war with humans might inspire other species to question Imperial rule. Miller nodded. So it was about more than just Earth. It always is, Admiral, Drevmore said. The Empire maintains power through the belief in its invincibility. You humans damaged that belief. The consequences are still unfolding. When news of the treaty reached Earth, reactions were mixed. Many celebrated the end of a war that had threatened humanity's existence. Others worried about trusting the Empire, arguing they should press their advantage while the Imperials were off balance. But Bennett's explanation to the world was clear. We fought for our right to determine our own destiny, and we've secured that right. We never sought to destroy the Empire, only to defend ourselves. This treaty gives us the peace we need to rebuild and the freedom to grow. Most importantly, it recognizes humans as equals in the galactic community. Across the galaxy, the news spread rapidly. On Imperial worlds, the official version emphasized the Empire's benevolence in granting special status to a worthy species. But on planets that had been conquered centuries ago, the whispers told a different story. Humans had fought the Empire and forced it to compromise. On a distant world called Niar, where the native population had been Imperial subjects for 1,000 years, a young Niarian asked her elder, "If humans could stand against the Empire, why can't we?" The elder hushed her quickly, looking around for Imperial monitors, but the question lingered in the air, repeated in different words on dozens of worlds throughout Imperial space. In his palace on Imperius Prime, Emperor Zelnor reviewed reports of these whispers with growing concern. The human problem goes beyond Earth, he told his inner council. Their example threatens the very foundation of imperial authority. We should have destroyed them completely, Governor Krelzan insisted. His career had suffered after his defeat at Earth, but he remained influential. At what cost? Drevmore countered. A protracted war against humans would drain resources we need elsewhere, and there's no guarantee of victory. The Emperor silenced them both with a gesture. What's done is done. We will honor the treaty, for now. But we will watch these humans carefully. If they violate any term, we will respond with full force. And if other species begin to question their place, Krelzan asked. The Emperor's face hardened. We will remind them of the consequences of defiance. The humans are a special case. No other race will receive such consideration. On Earth, the post-war rebuilding accelerated. With the immediate threat removed, humanity could focus on advancing their technology and expanding to other star systems within the agreed boundaries. Chief Engineer Morgan's team continued developing hybrid technologies that combined imperial concepts with human innovation. Captain Foster's Shadow, fully repaired, led missions to establish the first human colonies. Beyond the solar system, Admiral Howard oversaw the construction of a new fleet, one designed not just to defend Earth but to ensure humans would never again be at such a technological disadvantage. 1 year after the treaty signing, President Bennett met with her senior advisors to assess their progress. The Empire is honoring the agreement so far, Admiral Miller reported. Their ships stay outside our territory, and the limited trade has begun, but they're watching us constantly, General Stone added. We detect their surveillance satellites at the edges of our space. Bennett nodded. And we're watching them. Trust takes time, especially after war. The real question, said Dr. Elizabeth Green, who had studied imperial psychology throughout the conflict, is whether this peace will last. The Empire has never dealt with equals before. Their entire society is built on hierarchy and dominance. Then perhaps it's time for their society to evolve, Bennett suggested. Just as we're evolving as we take our place among the stars, Admiral Howard, always the pragmatist, added. Either way, we'll be ready. The new fleet will be twice as powerful as what we had during the war, and our defenses are stronger than ever. Bennett looked around at these people who had helped save humanity from subjugation. The Empire's biggest mistake wasn't underestimating our military capacity, she said. It was failing to recognize that humans could have been their greatest allies rather than their adversaries. We don't want to rule or be ruled. We want to work together, to learn and grow together. Do you think they'll ever understand that? Miller asked. I hope so, Bennett replied, because the alternative is endless conflict. And despite our victories, that's a future none of us wants. As the meeting ended, Bennett walked to the window of her office and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Empire was coming to terms with a new reality, one where humans had a place at the table. It wasn't the relationship the Imperials had expected when they first detected Earth, but it was the one humans had fought for. Not subjects, but equals.